Welcome back to Dubbzi Bricks for episode 4 of Building the Tantive in Lego. I'd just like to say a massive thank you to everybody for the last video. The amount of support and love that was shown for it was absolutely amazing. I couldn't be happier with the amount of new subscribers we had off the back of it, the amount of views, the donation from Klaus at Brickery Do, all much appreciated. So yeah, thank you very much. It's nice to know that people are enthusiastic about this build as much as I am of actually doing it as well. Now, to start off with, we have got a mini haul, and I finally, after 3 months of waiting, have had the legs arrive for my Rebel Fleet Troopers. Been waiting for these dual molded legs to arrive since last year, and it does make such a big difference to the Fleet Trooper. It's a lot more screen accurate, makes it look like they've got the black boots on, as you see in A New Hope. Now, I have purchased a few more of the Rebel Fleet Troopers since placing that order, so I think I'm going to have to order some more pretty soon just to get them all looking the same. We have had a couple of other orders come in from lego.com, so I can do a lot more work on this corridor just here as well, which is good. But the one thing I do want to concentrate on in this update is getting the other one of these done on the opposite side. Now, it's not going to have a corridor in there. However, I do want to put a fair few bricks in there, just so when it's on a display stand, this isn't wanting to lean to one side due to it being a little bit too heavy on one side compared to the other. So just need to take that into account. So without further ado, let's get the bricks out and let's get started. I've just started to work on the support structure for this side, and this side over here looks to me like it is just dipping down a little bit at the moment. So what I need to do is just work out a way of making it stand up more. I'm not sure if I've connected it incorrectly on the back here, but it looks considerably lower here than it does there. But we'll get to the bottom of it. But what I might need to do is put a support strut from around about there on the bottom of the corridor, going down a diagonal angle to the very base of it here, and then hopefully that will keep it all nicely in place. So I'm just going to strip this bit off, have a look to see where the problem is, and then I can rectify it and then replicate it on the other side. And before I go any further, we're working on the other side of where the docking bay is. I'm going to put the support beams in here to try and help take the weight of these two sections. Now, where the pink brick is just there, I'm going to replace that with one of these, and the same on the other side. I'll put an 8x brick above it and below it just to keep it nice and firmly in place. Then off the side of that, I'm going to be putting a Technic beam along one of these diagonally down to it. So hopefully that'll help keep it all in position. So let's make those changes, and fingers crossed it'll all line up. And there are some additional of the Technic beams in here just to help with the support and strength of this rear section. As I mentioned in the past, this is the first time I've ever built anything like this, so this is all a massive learning curve, and I'm sure I'm going to come across numerous problems further down the line, but we're just going to have to tackle them one by one as we go along. Now, one other thing I do need to start considering as well is whereabouts I'm going to be putting the display stand, where it's going to be fitting into this build. So that again is something else I need to work out. It would be nice if I could just place it on the display stand as opposed to actually being built into it. I think it might work a little bit better, but I'm going to have a good think about that before I go too far with building the skin around the fuselage here. But anyway, let's turn this back up the other way for the time being and carry on working on the side structure just here. And the side section is well underway here, and I'm just experimenting with this support structure just here. It'd be nice to have a column going through, so if you push down on this part here, this doesn't give way, as it's only the clip joints that are keeping it all in shape. And this actually works out perfect height-wise. Now, I've just realised I am a little bit short on here. I calculated this going by the length of the section that was over here. However, I forgot I've left a 2 stud gap just to allow for the curvature of the actual fuselage itself. So I just need to modify that. But I'm going to put a support structure all the way through the centre so that when this section's clipped into place, it's not going to go anywhere and not going to cave in. Make it nice and strong. Also, the added weight on there is going to help with the balance of this. Now, it'd be nice to do a similar technique underneath on here. However, obviously this is the anti-stud on there, and we need it to be stud facing down so I can clip the brick onto it. So I just need to work out a technique to do so on there. I'm going to concentrate on doing that part next, as it's a lot easier for me to flip the ship upside down without this part being in place. So let's do that bit next and see how we get on. And I found a solution for this section just here, getting the studs pointing in both directions so that this is nice and strong. And it involves using 4 of these snot bricks here. So all I've done is put them so they're facing the opposite direction, so they're bottom to bottom, so to speak. And then when they line up, you can just put a 4x plate over the top to clip them all together. And that's it, job done. So what I'm going to do now is build a structure the whole way across. That way it doesn't matter which part of the curved section you're pushing down on, it's got a bit of strength all the way along. And then I'll replicate the same design over on the back here. And there we have the support beam all down the centre there. And I've used these Technic beams here just to help crush it all together, so it's not going to drop off if it's too much weight on the skin of this. Now on this side here I use an art plate, so there's no Technic pins in the middle I could connect these to, so I've just had to use the beams that are going all the way across here to clip it all together, and fingers crossed that will do the trick. There are some large bricks inside of the Technic beams, some 2x10s I think they are, so there's plenty of clutch power all the way along there, so I'm hoping that that will be sufficient to keep that all together. Now one thing I do need to do is just move this beam here and on the other side, as I remove the diagonal one across there, which stops this tilting down once all the weight's on there. And yeah, I've removed it, I've got to put it back, so just need to make that amendment now. Once I've done that, I can carry on building all of these sections just here and then get the skeleton all the way around both sides. So I'll crack on and do that now. Once I've done so, I'll check back in and show you how it's looking. And there we have it, the support structure all in place with a nice selection of multicoloured filler brick and filler plate. And all I need to do now is just clip that in place, and that's it, job done. All ready for the final skin to be put on the top once I've worked out how I'm going to be going about doing so. But it's nice to have that all finished now. Balance wise, it's not too far out. There is nowhere near the same weight on this side as there is on the far side. However, at the moment, due to the weight of this corridor here, it is balancing it out quite well. So what I'm going to do now is turn my attention to this corridor here and get a bit more of that built up. And just checking in with an update on the corridor section here, and I think I've got it worked out how I want to go about doing so. This is the area where I'm going to have R2-D2 receiving the plans from Princess Leia. So there'd be an upright pole just here, and then it stops just there, and there's a disc shape, I believe, on the wall just there. Need to check some source material as to what details go on the actual wall there. And when we come around this side, I've added a door on there. Now, I'm not sure if that door is actually in the Tantive IV in the real universe. However, there is a doorway the other side, so I thought it made sense to have it going just there. Obviously, this is scaled down a little bit, so I am having to use some creative license to make everything fit in where I can. But anyway, I'm just going to carry on building this up. One other thing I've got to decide is whether or not I plate the entire section off here. This is going to be a removable roof anyway, and you're going to be able to see in this corridor, so I might do it so you can see in this one as well. Originally, I was going to plate it all off so you could just see through the gaps here. The pillar I've got here, there's going to be another one there, and then down the end, and I thought you could just see through, but I think it might be quite nice to be able to look down from the top as well. But anyway, let's carry on building these corridor sections up. That's as far as I can go with this corridor section just along here, and I'm really pleased with how this is coming along. It is very restrictive in how much you can see inside the corridor. You really have to peer around the corners, but I feel it really draws you into the MOC, so I'm really pleased with how that's come along. But I feel all the angles I've managed to get here do look, for me, quite accurate to what you see on screen. Still need to work on this section down the end here and also tile off the floor. There's also a pole that needs to go in just here, which is by the side of Princess Leia when she hands those plans over to R2-D2. Yeah, I need to place an order for several pieces. I have got another one of the corridor sets. I will be able to finish this section off here. There are a couple of panels missing, so I will concentrate on doing that in the very near future. But what I'm going to concentrate on doing now is getting some dark blue grey tiles out and putting the flooring down on the corridor all the way around here. It'll be tiled with just the odd stud here and there, just so I can place the minifigures in their action scenes. So let's go on and do that, and I'll check back in and show you how it looks once I've done so. And that's the corridor all tiled off, and I've left a fair few studs on there ready for some stormtroopers and rebel fleet troopers to be popped into place while they're having their battle on the Tantive. Now, the next thing I'm going to be concentrating on is this area just here. I want to get that all plated off, so I'm going to need to do some support struts around the back here so I can push down on that. This whole section here is going to have tiles wherever there are studs, so that the removable roof can just sit in place on there. But I'm going to need to order in a lot of parts to enable me to get to that stage. One thing I do want to be doing very, very soon is flipping the ship upside down and working on the bottom of it, as it's going to be a lot easier to do that now rather than further down the line. So I'm going to have to soon start to work out how I'm going to be actually attaching the bottom of this. Now, this ship is already getting very, very heavy, and I am starting to wonder how I'm going to be working on different sections. There are so many parts where I'm going to need to be working on it upside down or up the other way. And if I just show you this model just here, this is the area where we're working on at the moment, and there's a lot of detail on that bottom bit. So yeah, just need to work out how we go about it. But anyway, that's enough talking. Let's get back to building. Let's get this section all built up. And here we have the support structure at the back of the build here. Now, this is super strong. You can lift it up by there, no problem at all, and it's really, really sturdy. The downside is it's really, really heavy, and this is getting ridiculously heavy already, this build. And it has made me realise that the support structure that is going to be on the stand is going to need to be integrated into the build. It's only needs somebody to knock it very slightly, and this whole thing will fall over and be in a million pieces on the floor, which is obviously the last thing we want. So I'm going to have to build that as mentioned, into it. Luckily, we have got a lot of Technic exposed beneath the build here, so I will be able to start building that into it. So that is something that I'm going to need to work out how I go about doing so. Now, one thing I was going to be doing in this update was flipping this upside down and start working on the underneath of this. However, I think until I've worked out the support struts, the stand, there's no point doing so. So I'm going to need to work out how I'm going to do it and order all of that Lego in. And the next thing I'm going to do is put the minifigures inside the build, just to make sure that I've got the studs in the right places for that, because I don't want to do a lot more building just to discover that they're in the wrong place. So first things first, let's change the legs over on the Fleet Troopers. Then let's start putting the minifigures in the corridors. And that's the majority of our Fleet Troopers all changed over to the dual moulded legs. I still have one corridor set to open up, so I've got another 2 of these to go with it. So I'm going to need to order another 15 pairs of the legs, and then I can get all of the Fleet Troopers looking the same. But now let's move these into the mock and see how the corridors are looking. And here are the minifigures all in place, and I'm pretty happy with how the studs are positioned within there. There are a couple of exposed studs, however I didn't want to make it look too overcrowded. So yeah, there they all are, the Stormtroopers rushing around, and then there's a few of the Fleet Troopers just putting up one last stand. And then on this side round here we've got Princess Leia with R2-D2, and then we've got C-3PO looking for his buddy. So yeah, there it is. So really happy with how this is all coming together. And I've just moved the Tantive over onto the table surface where it just sits whilst I'm not working on it. And I thought I'd just give everybody an idea of the actual scale and size that this build is going to be. Here you can see the minifigures, and they give you a good idea of the size comparison minifigure to the actual build itself. But this circular section just here on the vessel is just this little small part of that. So as you can see, it is going to be absolutely gigantic once it's finished, and I think I've worked it out, it's going to be around about the 11-foot mark, maybe a fraction over. So yeah, lots of building still to come. Anyway, that's all we have time for. I hope you've enjoyed the update. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if you know anybody else you think could be interested in building the Tantive in Lego, if you could share the channel with them, it would be much appreciated. Anyway, thanks for popping on by, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.